Good morning, and thank you so much to everyone for joining. My name is Abby Long, and I'm a Foreign Affairs Officer working on the Program to End Modern Slavery, also known as the PEMS team, in the Office to Monitor and Combat Trafficking in Persons, or the TIP office at the United States Department of State. I'm delighted we are all here to discuss research on human trafficking, a topic in which the TIP office is deeply invested, since it is critical to our goal of learning how to most effectively reduce human trafficking. I would first like to thank the organizers, Jenny Sorensen and Sarah Consoli from International Innovations for Poverty Action, Kelly Gleason, Lorraine Wong, and Lorenzo Guarcello from the International Labor Organization, and Harry Cook and Phineas Jassy from the International Organization for Migration for putting this excellent event together and inviting the TIP office to speak. It's off to a fascinating start, and I'm really looking forward to the next 3 days. I'll start by sharing some information about the TIP office and PEMS, and then I'll highlight some of our key research programs. The TIP office partners with foreign governments, international organizations, other federal agencies, civil society, the private sector, and survivors of human trafficking to develop and implement effective strategies to confront human trafficking. The TIP office is responsible for bilateral and multilateral diplomacy, targeted foreign assistance, and public engagement on trafficking of persons. We lead the Department of State's global efforts to combat human trafficking through the 3P paradigm of prosecution of traffickers, protection of victims, and the prevention of human trafficking, plus the 4th P for partnerships. The TIP office awards foreign assistance grants to combat all forms of human trafficking using the 4P framework. We have a few different foreign assistance programs, and PEMS is one of them. So what is the PEMS program doing? This programming, which is a congressional directive, is pioneering approaches to combat human trafficking by combining cutting-edge research with targeted programming to rigorously test prevalence research methods and the effectiveness of human trafficking interventions. The primary goal of PEMS-funded interventions is to show a measurable reduction in human trafficking within specific geographic areas, industries, and populations where PEMS programs operate. As we all know, there is a lack of established evidence on what type of programs work best to reduce specific forms of human trafficking. Coupled with uncertain estimates about how many individuals are exploited by traffickers might be found within a given population. PEMS projects conduct baseline quantitative and qualitative research to inform program design, understand the trafficking context, and contribute to the growing field of rigorous prevalence research on human trafficking. After programming has concluded, PEMS projects assess the outcome of interventions to build the evidence base of what activities or combination of activities effectively reduce human trafficking in that specific context. This information can also be used by all levels of government to establish sustainable anti-trafficking policies. And so back to research. One of the reasons we're all here today is because research on human trafficking is particularly challenging. Why is this? It's in no small part due to the definitional challenges, the hidden nature of the crime, as well as the complexity of analyzing elements of trafficking, such as coercive schemes, that make it difficult to address sensitive topics with victims, and in many cases, to even be able to access them. A lack of standardized methodology on how to measure the crime further limits our ability to compare data and analyze trends. These combined issues have significantly slowed research into successful methods to combat trafficking. Through PEMS, the TIP office designed 2 cutting-edge efforts to address this problem. First, the Prevalence Reduction Innovation Forum, also known as the PRIF. PEMS calls for programs that measurably reduce the prevalence of human trafficking. However, without international standards on how to measure human trafficking prevalence, at least according to the Palermo Protocol, studies have questionable accuracy, and measuring prevalence reduction has been a significant challenge for the field. We created the PRIF to develop standard questions and test methodologies to create universal guidance on human trafficking prevalence measurement. The 7 PRIF-funded studies use a common definition of trafficking and will test and compare various methods for estimating the number of trafficking victims. The PRIF will also use a meta-analysis to analyze the results of these studies to help us understand which methods work better and are more cost-efficient. This will allow us to better analyze whether anti-trafficking programs reduce prevalence, a crucial outcome indicator. We also hope that the findings of the PRIF can be applied to researchers working with any vulnerable or hidden populations outside of human trafficking victims. Some of the PRIF studies have begun data collection, and we expect the last study to wrap up data collection by the end of this year, with results coming shortly after. My office also funded expansions of the PRIF, which use the findings of the baseline prevalence studies to help design targeted interventions, followed by end-line prevalence studies to help us identify which anti-trafficking programs actually reduce prevalence. We are excited that these programs purposely bring together academics who have expertise in prevalence methodologies with program implementers. This type of collaboration between academics and implementers on these and other efforts is critical to making progress on reducing human trafficking. This leads us to the second cutting-edge effort launched by PEMS. The TIP office created the Human Trafficking Research Initiative to conduct experimental research on anti-trafficking interventions, systems, and conditions that enable sustainable change. I am sure many of you will all agree here that randomized control trials provide crucial information on whether an intervention equitably reaches a target population and makes a difference in their lives. Policymakers realize their value, and consequently, the results of an RCT carry great weight in the design of programs and policies. HTRI can also ensure high-quality evidence is accessible to and used by decision makers at local, national, and regional levels. HTRI also developed a research and learning agenda, the RLA, to identify key questions and the most pressing research needs of the anti-trafficking community. The RLA was created through broad consultation, is publicly available, and has been circulated widely. The most recent copy came out on June 7th, just a few weeks ago, and I'd encourage you all to take a good look at it. My colleagues and I on the PEMS team are already using the RLA to help identify future funding priorities. The TIP office hopes that in the next 2 to 5 years, this groundbreaking work will enable the US government to better reach its goals in preventing and combating human trafficking and create a culture shift in the quantity and quality of evidence on which we rely. We expect these projects will also stimulate research beyond the stated objectives by bringing new academics from various disciplines into the field and reducing the financial and administrative burden of prevalence research. These advances are being shared and coordinated with governments, international organizations, and other stakeholders across the anti-trafficking field. The guidance produced should have broad utility, and we hope the results of the PRIF and HTRI research improve anti-trafficking policy and programming decisions around the world. During this conference, you will hear the results of some of the initial seed grants from HTRI on child domestic servitude, sex trafficking, labor trafficking in social media, and prevention programming that took place in several countries around the world. It is the first time that the TIP office has funded seed grants of this type, and we hope that it provokes a useful discussion on future research avenues and the programming implications. We're also looking forward to hearing the results from the Research to Action grantees and are confident that we can all learn from each other. This is an amazing opportunity for this group of people to put our heads together, discuss challenges, celebrate successes, and identify paths on which to move forward. So thanks again for all your time, and I hope you enjoy the conference.